So before we start, I wanted to congratulate you. You got some nice awards the other night at the People's Choice Awards, including Female Movie Star for Spider-Man and Drama TV Star for Euphoria. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a very big deal. The people love you.
Thank you.
The people have spoken. So before we talk about the show, and there's so much to talk about, I would love to know, for each of you, when was the first time you felt like an artist or a storyteller? Was there something that you made, or maybe something you did as a kid where you realized, this feels good, I want to keep doing more of this?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's kind of one of those weird things where I don't know if there was a specific moment so much as I just knew that this was what I wanted to do, and I've just always been fascinated by it. My mom, she worked at the California Shakespeare Theater ever since I was 2 years old, and I was like so obsessed with trying to watch as much of it as I possibly could. I would like beg her to let me stay on school nights to watch like tech rehearsals, and she thought it was boring, you know, it's not her thing, but me, I was just so fascinated by it. And
so you liked the behind the scenes inner workings piece of it.
I loved watching the director work with his actors, and I had like a tremendous amount of respect for it, and I was so young watching Shakespeare and understanding it and being like interested by it and wanting to stay there. You know, usually maybe for another kid that would be like torture, but for me it was like the best thing in the world. So I don't know, I guess that I don't know, that was my introduction to it, and I just knew that, like, I don't know in what form or what way, I was like, I want to be doing this. I don't know what this is, but I like this.
You want to join the circus.
Yeah.
How about you, Sam? What was your epiphany as an artist?
I don't know if it was first time, but I remember my mother was, she said, you know, I think there's a movie you'd really like, you know, it's called Pink Flamingos, and I was 11 years old at the time. I don't know if anyone knows a lot of people, but it's a very outrageous film, and she took me to the video store, and I remember I was 11, I saw the back of the cover and the thing, I looked down and it says NC-17, and it was like, I just thought, holy shit, okay, I hope she doesn't. She's like, let me see the video box. So she's looking at it and everything, with, you know, going, oh yeah, no, this is it. I think you're going to like this. And we're walking through, and I'm walking up to the clerk, and I'm like, I hope the clerk doesn't say anything to my mother about it being NC-17. We, you know, make it past the clerk. I get home, I go in, you know, she's like, oh, you know, you're going to watch the movie? I was like, no, I'm going to wait till a little bit later. I waited till a little bit later. I remember it was like, I like put in the VCR and just, I watched it, and I was just completely blown away by the fact that you could put this on film, and I was, and then I thought, well, I guess, you know, anything's possible. And that, so that was a big epiphany for me.
Did you see yourself as a writer at that point? Did you have aspirations to act, or did you know, oh, I'm the storyteller in this equation?
No, I think it was from the perspective of writing, and that, like, you can, whatever outlandish and crazy thoughts that were inside of my head, or, you know, I could just put out and put into characters or give away to people. Right. You know?
So we thank John Waters then for Euphoria.
Always.
Every day we should be thanking John Waters. So Sam, take us through the, I guess, nascency of this show. I know it's equal parts personal inspiration. It draws from the Israeli series of the same name, but it's obviously a recreation and reinvention. When was the first time it occurred to you to try to create this world?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. One, I've been trying to write various sort of versions of this piece, I guess, for probably about 10 years. You know, I got clean when I was 19 from drugs, and so I was always trying to figure out a way to articulate it, and in what sort of architecture I didn't quite know, and so I tried different things in scripts and plays and all that. And I don't know, a few years back, I went into HBO for this general meeting, and I sat down, we were talking, and they told me about the Israeli show, and they sent me the links, and I went to watch it, and it came back in. I had a conversation with Francesca Orsi, who's the head of drama there. I almost said trauma.
Well, it can be both. It can be both, yeah.
But she and we just had a conversation about just life, and her life and my life, and various struggles that we had been through, things. And she said, great, well, go and write that. And I said, what? She goes, everything we just talked about. And so that's kind of what, where it sort of came from. And I'd never written for television before. I'd never written long form. So I just kind of wrote one episode and then sent it to them. They're like, great, write another one. I was like, fuck, what do I do now? And then so I just kind of made it up.
Be careful what you wish for. And at what point did this actor's name pop up? I know early on she was on your.
She was in my head.
She was in your head. Yeah. When did she enter the equation?
A mood board and stuff. Well, and then I got a call. Well, but I didn't think she would do it. I was like, and then I got a call that she had read it and wanted to sit down. I was very excited. And
what
were your first thoughts when you read it?
I was in love.
You were? Yeah. You knew right away?
Yeah, it was, I don't know. I kind of was in I was in a bit of a weird place because, I'd kind of finished the old phase of my career, and I kind of had this big chunk of time of nothing to do, and I was real stressed about it as somebody who likes to work and feels that if they're not working that they're like, that they're not doing something.
You'd
right.
not had idle time before.
Yeah. If I feel like I'm not working, I feel like everything's gonna disappear.
I think everyone in this room can probably relate to that.
Yeah. Listen, I get it.
We can feel that.
Yeah. So that empty time and also not wanting to just do something just for the sake of doing it, and wanting to be very selective with what. I went out there and did, and I was reading a lot of scripts, and nothing just felt right. And I had all these ideas about what the next step of my career was going to be, and nothing was kind of hitting the way I felt like it should, or wasn't speaking to me. And I was like, am I looking for something that doesn't really exist? Like I'm looking for this feeling, like, oh, when you know. And I'm like, well, maybe that's not a real thing. Maybe I'm just made that up in my head, and then something I was supposed to do, it fell through at the last minute, and I was like, okay, well, I guess, I'll just wait till, they call me for the next Spider-Man. I'll just won't be doing anything, and then Euphoria got sent to me, and I read it, and I don't like reading scripts really. It's difficult. It can be
a bit of a drag if you're doing it a lot.
It's tough. And as a very imaginative person, like my brain, I can read. I don't know if anybody I can read and have like a whole nother thought going on. And then I'm like, I don't know what I just read. Like I just read 4 pages and have no memory of it. So that's usually how my life works when reading things, and that's how it's not right, And Euphoria was one of the first things that I read and was in it and feeling it the whole way through, and I was conscious and aware, and I fell in love.
And what was it about the way it was written that kept your attention? Because, and I want to talk a little bit more about this, but the structure, the scene directions are probably incredible. The camera work is really unreal and almost like its own character in the show. Was that all on the page? Yes, let's applaud that. It's really stunning. I mean, just some of the shot of Jules and her friend going up the staircase. Just those moments, I was like, I couldn't even concentrate on the other moments because I kept wondering, how the hell did they do that? So I want to get to that in a minute, but I want to see how much of that was in the script, and could you picture
Sam
this
writes
world?
Brilliant scripts, like this man, he's got a gift, and he, I think one of the things that was special to me is there was never wasted time. It was always moving. Something was happening. There was cutting to something, but not in a way that it was confusing. It just kind of stayed with the track of my brain. So it's like when usually you would tune out or start daydreaming about something else, that's when the scene changes and now you're here. And
it's
then
almost
you're
like he knew what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I enjoyed it. I had so much fun, and he writes like cool things in there. He's like, by the way, listen to this song and start it here, and then listen to it while you're reading, and then so we'll add like these little notes and cool things, and you look up the song and you play it, and it just makes everything so much cooler. She's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and he's brilliant. So I was like, please, I just knew that this was something I wanted to be a part of. I was like, all my fears and worries and everything were completely gone, and I was like, I want to do this.
So it pays to wait for the right thing.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the moral of the story. So on that note, tell me a little bit about the sort of creating this world. and then when she came on board, how the two of you collaborated to create Rue and work together, because this wasn't just actor shows up, actor reads lines. I know that she's as much of a creation of you as he.
Yeah. Wait, what was the first part of the
Or
question?
just sort of creating
the world.
creating the world on the page,
yeah.
but then also when she became part of this world, how did the two of you collaborate to bring her to life, essentially?
Well, I think so. In terms of the first thing, I don't like reading scripts myself, and I don't even like reading my own work. In fact, the only way to read my own work is if I call people that I know and I read it aloud to them. That's the only way I can read it again, because I have a lot of learning disabilities among other issues. But so I think with the scripts in general, I just try to write them as I think everyone reads on their iPads and they're getting fucking emails and shit at the same time, and no one's really paying attention to anything. So I just try to make it as like easy to read as possible. So it's just like, dolly in on Rue's face, dialogue. We want this thing to and it just, or I'll even write things like, we're going to do this because it'll be the fucking coolest thing you've ever seen, and da-da-da-da. Like, I try to antagonize the reader a little bit.
It's very
I'm just,
Tarantino
listen to
of
this
you.
fucking song right now at 4:42
And you're gonna do
seconds. Because it's really good. I'm not kidding. Fucking listen to the song. Excuse my language. But anyway, so
You do not have to ask us to excuse
I do
you,
that a
it's
lot.
fine.
But and just try to make it fun to read, because at the end of the day, it's just a blueprint for, I'm not precious about it. I don't need to write any, poetry into the thing. It's like, I know how I'm going to shoot it, and I just want to give people a sort of a taste for the rhythm of it and stuff. And I think part of what the design of the world is we wanted to basically have something that lives almost in a montage of sorts, and allow the montage to be the thing that propels you. And then suddenly when you get to a scene, and it's like, when you get to an actual scene, it's like everything stops and you're going, like, what? There's a certain kind of anxiety that you have because you're not used to sticking with something or being inside of something. So it was just sort of inverting what felt like a normal sort of film structure of sorts. And then alongside that, I think, in terms of this episode in particular, this is episode 7, right? Sorry, I forgot. But I think with this is the first episode that I wrote after shooting with Z. And I think that's why it holds such a special place in my heart, because, so I don't know if everyone's seen the entire series and stuff, but there's a moment at the carnival when Rue recognizes that Jules is telling the truth about Cal at the chili stand, and it's a moment in which the camera dollies in on Rue, and her eyes just kind of go wide a little bit, and it's this sort of like weird, almost Buster Keaton-esque moment, and then she does this thing where she moves to the side and walks up, and it's fucking hilarious and brilliant. It's such an amazing moment, and that was the first day of shooting with Z, and so she did that, and I was watching, and I was going, holy fuck, I wonder what else we can do in that realm, and of just allowing her to just play the physicality of it and the humor of it and everything. And so that I think so I started to write episode 7 as we were shooting, and part of the idea was, like, how far can she take this in terms of articulating what she's feeling without the use of words. And I think, like, when you look at the scene in the alley when she's walking away from Fezco's, and I had this idea of how can we sort of show that just how when depression hits you, it's just this like tidal wave, and it overtakes everything in your face and in your body, and it just submerges you in just in an instant. And I remember having it in the script, and we did a table read, and I think there was a lot of notes on it where people would say, well, how are we going to know that this is the thing? And I said, because like the camera's going to be on Zendaya's face, and she's going to tell us that, and you're going to see it. And they're like, but what if we don't see it? And I was like, then I'll write something out. I don't know what to tell, but it's like, and just that moment when it hits is just so powerful, and it's a testament to, I think, her ability as an actor to just to convey something without the use of words, and you just see the life run out of this this kid's face in this moment, and you know what she's struggling with, and it's just it's one of my favorite moments in the entire series, and this episode in general, and because it was really built around Z as an actor, and I think all of the things that she's capable of, and it was just sort of, I think, us having fun with that and just saying, well, what if she's on this manic trip now? What if she's, she's a detective now and she's walking around and it's like, boom, with the smoking of the things and this and the knock, knock, knock and the mania of it. It was just a blast to shoot. And it's rare that you have an actor who's capable of so much. And so I was just like, fuck, I'm going to take advantage of this and just see what she
You wisely did. And Zendaya, what would you say was your toughest day on set, either emotionally, particularly hard sequence, or maybe what wasn't your toughest day on set?
I don't know. I mean,
is it all like a blur now? Can you even parse out the moments?
No, I remember everything.
Okay. Was there a day that you look back on now and think, I'm not sure I knew I was going to get through it, and then you think, oh, I did. I got through it.
The thing about this show is like because you love it so much and we care about each other so much, like, you're pretty much willing to go through anything and love every minute of it, Like I'm like, oh, you want to? Okay, cool, yeah, fuck it, Like it truly feels worth it. Nothing ever, even when it feels painful and you're tired and you don't know what time it is and you're confused and you're sad and you're like, there's just like a lot going on and you're cold or like whatever it is. It's like all of it is just, every moment of it is 1,000% worth it because you're making something special. And so I can't really say that there's like ever a really tough day because our set and the environment that Sam has created for all of us is safe. We feel like we can exist in a safe space and do our job and know that we're appreciated and we're taken care of, and we all are very supportive of each other, and that I think is the only kind of space you can have on a set to do something like this, And
how impactful do you think it is and meaningful that he can relate to so much of what is happening on screen to these characters?
Oh, it's the only way. You can't write something like this and not have existed through it. I don't think it would. I think it would feel like bullshit, and people would be able to see through it very clearly. I think the specifics of being inside of Rue's head, I think that's why I was so obsessed with episode 7. I feel like it's one of the most vulnerable episodes because it's like it's completely inside of her own brain. It's the first time that she's narrating not other people's lives. She's kind of narrating everything that's going on in her own head, and those thoughts are so difficult to articulate. And the fact that like Sam is just brave enough to put words to something that I think a lot of people feel but don't know how to put words to is very special, and I think a lot of people needed that episode. I felt that it was something that was I immediately when I read it I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever read in my life, because it spoke to something I think that people needed, but it also was so much fun. Like it was just so much fun, like to be able. I often hear when people are making difficult stories and telling difficult stories, it's also when they're having the most fun. I hear that a lot from actors where it's the most brutal content, and yet it's also, there's a lot of levity. Did you find yourself, when you would call cut, were you able to sort of have those moments of laughing and enjoying each other? The brutal days were like, the days of like, hey, we show up and, it says, Leslie and Rue will fight. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, we'll just, whatever. Like, it's not going to be a big deal. And then Sam's like, okay, so I basically want you to destroy each other and go as hard as you possibly can for the next hour and just go for it. And you're like, well, what? I'm sorry, what? I thought this was going to be like a quick thing, a cute little montage. And he's like, no, I want you guys to.
Because I just write in the script, like, Rue and Leslie fight. Right. And then I just move on. Then Rue sings in the car. Rue and Leslie fight. So it's no one really knows.
So sometimes you're holding back with the script, and then in the moment you decide, I'm going to make this harder on them than I anticipated.
Yeah, I was like, I was riding to work one day. I was like, we don't really like improv that many scenes, and that'd be fucking great because Nika's so good and Z's so good. What if they just went at each other? And then we kind of
surprise.
And then and then because I think it's important to sort of stay open to life, and also, and just and to allow kind of just the lives of the people that you're working with to seep into
well, and also as you're getting to know each other. And it was so interesting you talked about, that was the first episode you wrote after shooting her. And I mean, how often we hear TV writers writing to their actors. Once you know what he or she is able to do, then you start to almost challenge them more in that process. So it's almost as if, her performance is growing alongside of the writing. Did that feel real to you?
I think so. I mean, at the same time, it's also, I'd fallen into a slight depression at one point during filming as well. Well, mainly because I had to do, I didn't have to rewrite a lot of episodes, but I got a lot of notes on episode 7. And then at a certain point, I got really depressed because I had rewritten it so many times. So then I spent the weekend watching Love Island and not getting out of bed to pee. And then my producer came over and he was like, Sam, what's going on here? And I was like, I've been very depressed, Kevin. And he was like, what's going on? I said, well, I've been watching Love Island and the thing. Da, da, da. I started like talking to him, and then when my assistant was there at the same time, and I just started kind of talking about it. And this is really a testament to him as well. And he kind of looked at my assistant. He was like, and I just kind of talked what I was feeling at the time and stuff. And I don't normally I was just a weird like 48, 72 hours. I think we had like 4 days off or something, and it was, I'm not used to working I like working every day because it gives me some structure, and that's kind of where the sort of the structure of the episode came from. And then and that kind of coupled with this idea of what can Z do as an actor, and how can I push her, and how can I start to and how can she articulate some of these feelings that are pretty kind of deep-rooted feelings in a way that about how time can collapse, and about just the nature of depression and the physicality of it. And so it was kind of constructed in some ways like, it was almost, I always thought of it as a bit like a Hitchcock film in terms of its cutting patterns, and just seeing her kind of sit up here, and then her face, and then she looks down at her feet, and this thing, and the door's over there. It's almost like a suspense piece. Is like, can she make it to the bathroom without her body just saying, fuck it, I'm gonna go back to sleep? Right. And it's, and so yeah, I think I was definitely writing to, I think that's what's really exciting about this process and about television is it's a living and breathing organism. So we're kind of growing together as artists, and it's like, well, what about this or what about that? And we get kind of excited and inspired by one another.
Those few days in that room were tough.
That was dark.
Tough days.
Yeah.
So we have Love Island to partially thank for some of this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that show would serve some purpose.
That's also because Bad Girls Club was like, no, you can't license our stuff. And I was like,
damn. There are so many of those shows to choose from, too. Yeah. So we have to wrap, but I did want to ask sort of a twofold question. The first part being, what is the most meaningful feedback you've gotten from the show, which has been still going on? I mean, I go to Twitter and I just, see what people are saying. I've never seen such a swell of reaction in such a short time. And then also, what can you tell us about season 2 and where you are in that? You can start, Zendaya.
Most meaningful reactions. I don't know. I think it. Yeah, that's a tough one to answer because there's been a lot of really meaningful reactions.
Has the reaction been what you expected?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it has. I think it's been. I think sometimes you just know you're doing something and you feel like you just know that people need it and you can't really explain why. I've always felt that way about this show, but I think when it came out was the only time I ever got nervous about it because I pretty much just had accepted that it was what it was, and I think the people who need it are gonna find it, and that's just is what it is. I'm just gonna be an artist and tell stories and
You didn't have like a box office to worry about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like this is this art piece. People are gonna the people who want it are gonna know it.
Are gonna understand it. And when it started coming out, I was a bit nervous, obviously, but bothering Sam a lot. But I think to me the most valuable thing, and I've said it a lot, but I think it's for me has just been people feeling seen, feeling that they are not the only person in the world that is living and existing these things, and that. Because sometimes when dealing with things like this, you truly believe, when you're young specifically, but I think in all ages of life, that you are the only person that is fucking dealing with this stuff. And you feel very, very alone and very isolated. And I think that the show allows for people to feel, like I said, they just feel seen. Like I that's me there. That's what I was trying to say. That's how I feel. That oh wow, there's something to it when you can.
They can tell someone, watch Euphoria. That's how I feel.
Yeah,
it almost speaks
how I feel.
For
them.
And
I'm sure that I hope that there's been conversations opened, whether it be amongst parents or families or whatever. Start that dialogue and those conversations that need to happen, and yeah, just people feeling connected to it in any kind of way, I think has been the most valuable and beautiful thing that I think has happened. So yeah, I just feel lucky to have been in any part of Euphoria, but specifically work with Sam, and that he believed in me at all to be Rue, or that he was so open with himself and his story and his life, and somehow thought that I was capable of doing it, So I'm just grateful for the show. That's why I can't wait to go back. I'm just like, I want to go back home, It's like a home base for us.
So speaking of going back, what can you tell us about where you are in that process? I don't want to stress you out, but I'm sure we're all very anxiously awaiting the schedule for the next installment.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I went through a very funny thing where, I was just telling HBO this, but they, I don't know. I was writing, and I was kind of happy with it and stuff, and then I was like, oh, I don't know, and I wrote 300 and some odd pages, and then 3 weeks ago I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw it all out, and I threw out 5 episodes, and then I was like, and then I just thought, but it was so liberating. I'm a bit of an anarchist. And so I was like...
We're sensing that, Sam.
I was really, I had a lot of fun. I threw it out, and everyone around me was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And then and then I started averaging an episode every 4 days. So I've written 4 episodes or 5 or something like that, 4.5 episodes since. And I was just writing just now, but before I got here. But it's been really kind of exciting, because I think we've established the world, and now and I think the interesting thing about television is, because of the time that you spend with the characters, there's a level of intimacy that allows you to that allows, I think, that allows an audience member to really connect to a character, and love them and empathize with them, which also enables you as a writer to go, well, how can I take advantage of that feeling of love, and allow her to do some kind of crazy stuff. But no, I think it's been interesting. It's been a kind of a really sort of beautiful. I'm really excited about these new episodes, and I don't know. Hopefully, I'll have it done soon, because I would like to get back to shooting, because I miss everybody. So that's the only goal.
That's your incentive to wrap it up.
I really miss this cast and crew, and I really like working with them and stuff. So I got to finish these fucking episodes and start shooting them.
Well, on that note, we're going to send you home to write. Thank you both for being here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great day. Thank you.